Hello and welcome to the Rise and Shine Audio Festival. DeMarkay Williams here. Great to be doing this. Thank you to Sarah for letting me do this. It's a really cool way of me showcasing my work, getting my name out there, and also telling you about my experience at Global Academy, how I was involved with the Youth Choice, and also the multi-track audio fellowship, as well as how I made my audio documentary series Black Pioneers in Media, and also some work I did for BBC Sounds. So let's get started. So this was a quote from the Global Academy when we did our first ever promo video. This was one of the lines that one of the students said, and they were right. It's a totally different school. It's not like any other school you've been to before. It's a totally different experience. As soon as you get in, you're thrusted into the world of media, radio and television, whether it be with Global or the BBC or Bauer. It was a real partnership between Global themselves and the University of the Arts London. And some of my teachers came from the industry. So like Mark Pendergast, he is a football commentator and a volleyball commentator in Dubai. He worked in Dubai on a radio station. Charlotte Tahira, who is a presenter on Pulse 88 Radio, who's also now a producer for One Extra and Asian Network. Jonathan Jacob, who is head of careers and external relations. He worked at Global, then he moved to Global Academy. He's done amazing things in the industry. So yeah, that's just a flavor of my teachers. But now I want to share with you two promo videos that I was part of. The first one was the first ever promo video at Global Academy, which was shown at Capital's Jingle Bell Ball, Summertime Ball. And it features 4 students, 2 in year 10, 2 in year 12, myself, a guy called Renars, a girl called Taya, and a girl called Yasmin. Yasmin was in my year group, and Taya and Renars were in the year below. And so the idea for this promo video was that we want to showcase Global Academy as a different school, but we want you guys to voice it and be part of it. So as you'll see, all students featured in the promo video are real students from Global Academy, and you may even be able to hear my voice.
It's school, but it's totally different.
Welcome to the School of the Future.
So that was one of the promo videos for the Global Academy, which was a fantastic experience to be part of, to be able to be on camera and also voice it. It was the first ever voiceover thing I did, really. And so it was new to me. That's why my voice didn't sound, as crystal clear as it is now, because I was still learning how to be a voiceover. I was getting training, on-the-spot training from my teachers. So yeah, but it was fantastic to be part of. So this is what the Global Academy looked like when we first opened. So on the left-hand side, you have Jack and Zach there, who were in my year group, learning how to use Adobe Audition, how to control the TV screens and the lights in the radio studios. In the middle, that was the original cohort of students, all 150 of us. There were 100 in year 12 and 50 in year 10, if I remember correctly. We're all sitting down there in the atrium. The school was still being built. It was still a sort of construction site then, but it was fully operational, up and running. And then we have other photos where we're all playing an icebreaker game together. And then the man who started it all, Simon Collins, our first ever principal, and also a guy called Elaine Fusion Clapham, who is an industry speaker who helped launch Global Academy in our opening week. We called it Creativity Week because it was a week dedicated for us to be creative and create different things together and work as a team. So these are just some of my achievements at the Global Academy. I was shortlisted to pitch my radio station idea to Global in year 12. I was a brand ambassador for a year, which was really cool. I got to go to Global. I got to meet the Department of Education. I got to meet with senior leaders at Global and also at Global Academy. I was part of the Royal Opening production team. So in April 2017, Prince Harry, Prince William, and the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, they came to Global Academy to open it. And on that day, we had Capital, Heart, and LBC in our school. So LBC was in one classroom, Heart was in our recording studio, and Capital with Roman Camp was in the TV studio. There were 2 live broadcasts, Heart and LBC. Jamie Theaks and Emma Bunton, they were there with students who got in at about 5 a.m. To be part of that. LBC live broadcasting from our classroom, which was amazing. We had to connect it through our radio studios down the line to Leicester Square for both Heart and LBC. Roman Camp was doing a piece with Royals and also some students, and also Heart and LBC, discussion about mental health and Heads Together. So yeah, that was really cool to be part of. I helped to relaunch Youth Choice in June 2017. So I was part of the school's radio station from when it launched in March 2017, but I became a full part of the team in June 2017, and I helped to shape Youth Choice to what it is now. I represented Global Academy both internally and externally, like at events in the school, like open events, open evenings, going to Excel London for a careers fair and education fair, which was really cool to be part of. And my most proudest achievement, I created and produced Black Pioneers in Media. Now, some of you will have heard Black Pioneers in Media because I've probably shared it with you, but if you haven't, I'll be playing it for you later on in this presentation. So that's just a flavor of what I've done at the Global Academy. So now let's talk about Youth Choice, the Global Academy's radio station. Now, it launched on the 31st of March 2017. It was a completely new thing. We created it from scratch. The station didn't have the abilities to go live yet. We weren't broadcasting live on the radio. We were creating audio packages. There was a head of production called Chloe Chibnall who created the original sound for the station. And we had 2 station voices, Darshan and Armin, who were year 12 students at the Global Academy. So they were the voices for Youth Choice, and we were working with them to create different things. So I'm now going to play for you the launch video for Youth Choice. This is how we launched the station as 16 and 17-year-olds who had never done anything like this before, were given a matter of weeks to do it, as we'd all pitched our station ideas to Global. 9 of us were chosen, myself included, went to Global, pitched it, Youth Choice won, and this is how we launched the station. So that's how we launched Youth Choice. Sarah's just told me that there's no sound on my clip, so I'll sort out in a little while. Not too sure what's going on there. Let's get past that. So here's just some pictures from Youth Choice. That's us celebrating our first birthday with the team. We were a small team, but we made it possible by working together hard to make sure that the station sounded good, and we were creating amazing content. And that's Philip and Emily. Emily was the presenter of her own special show called Showstopper Sunday, which was a theatre show that played songs from musicals. She was the presenter. Philip was the producer. They were good friends who had an idea. They came together, and it was a success. So these are the identities for the station. So that the first one on the left, that was our first logo. And then in the middle, that got changed a little bit, just like the border around it. And then that's the logo that is used today on the right-hand side. So this is just a brief history of Youth Choice. It was created by Annette Asadu. It launched on the 31st of March. There were 11 members of the production team. There were 17 radio presenters. The head of station was Andrew Botcher, who's my good friend. There were 3 heads of production, Chloe Chibnall, as I mentioned, Sarah Cocconi, and myself, who took over from Chloe when she left. There were 4 station coordinators, myself, Philip Rowley, Ben Edmonds, D'Angelo Briscoe. We were all 16 and 17, never done this before, but we thought, hey, let's get stuck into it and see what we can do to make the station sound good. There were 16 audio packages produced, ranging from fast food to Black Pioneers in Media, through to the history of UK Garage, Notting Hill Carnival, soca music, and there were 16 people who worked on Youth Choice off air in total. So yeah, that's just a brief history of the station. And so now, let's talk about Black Pioneers in Media, something that I was very, very passionate about, that I wanted to do. It was an idea that stemmed in an audio lesson when we were pitching podcasts for Youth Choice. I wanted to create something about Black people, because Black people are heavily underrepresented in the media industry. And I thought, hey, as a 17-year-old, let me do something, not to, necessarily change anything, but create something that will have an impact in the future. So Black Pioneers in Media is an audio documentary about Barbara Blake, who was the first Black newsreader in the UK. Now, many people have thought it was Trevor McDonald, or Maurice Stewart, but it wasn't. It was Barbara Blake, who came from Jamaica in the late 1960s, who experienced racism, prejudice. She received negative letters and phone calls from her colleagues and senior staff. A lot of them were very, very racist. Barbara, being herself, she didn't take it on. She didn't let it affect her, and she pushed on, and she became this amazing person. I thought, okay, I'm making it about Barbara because she's amazing. And the response I received from making Black Pioneers in Media was amazing. Like, from me sending it to my teachers and me playing it for the students, my podcast was the foundation for the next set of year 12s who came in after us in their lessons. My teacher played it for them and it's like, guys, make your audio documentary sound like this, in this style, with the music, the voiceover, the clips, making sure the way you edit it is seamless, all of that stuff. And right across the industry, when I was with One Extra last year at Notting Hill Carnival, a producer for Radio 101 Extra said to me, DeMarkay, did you create Black Pioneers in Media? I was like, yeah, I did. Oh yeah, I've heard it. I'm thinking, how did she, manage to hear my work? Because she'd never heard of me before. I hadn't sent it to anyone at the BBC. So for them to find it and say, DeMarkay did a great job, was really, really cool. So let's skip past that. So another really cool thing I did was I created some radio show demos for BBC Sounds. So I applied for a job at BBC Sounds, and one of the tasks was to create some radio trail demos for 5 Live and the music stations. And so one was called the Hear Her Mix, a trail about a season of music from amazing women, amazing artists. And the second one was for the Peter Crouch podcast, which I had great fun editing. I used one music bed, and when I edit my work, I like to have the music first and then the voiceover, and then put them into Adobe Audition. Like, okay, how am I going to match these together? And then 9 times out of 10, when I play them together, it doesn't require any editing, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to play this audio piece now. So give me 1 second.
Enjoy tracks from hugely influential female artists in the Hear Her mix.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts. Download the free BBC Sounds app to listen without limits.
That Peter Crouch podcast is back for Series 2. An exclusive insight from what happens off the pitch.
No, I genuinely have enjoyed it. I really do want to do some more.
Great. Well, let's sign up right now to do another.
There is no but. There's no but.
But why are you making it sound like a but?
Going behind the scenes in the football world.
That Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch.
Back for a second series.
Download the free BBC Sounds app for music, radio, and podcasts to listen without limits.
So we've got the sound working. Brilliant. So I had to come out with screen share to play the audio. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll right back to the first audio clip. I'm going to play the promo video for Global Academy, as there wasn't sound at the beginning. So let's play it now.
It's school, but it's totally different.
Welcome to
No, what's going on? Oh, this is terrible. Technical difficulties, guys, sorry.
It's school, but it's totally different.
Welcome to School of the Future.
The Global Academy is a new state school for students aged 14 to 19.
We offer a unique opportunity to study the practical and technical skills to succeed in the media, broadcast and digital media industry alongside your GCSE and A-levels.
I chose to be ahead of the game.
I chose to specialize and follow my dream career.
I'm learning to build an app.
I'm going to produce my own radio show.
I can be me.
The Global Academy. Join us at an open day.
So that was the first ever promo video for Global Academy. Played it earlier, but there wasn't any sound. So that's how we did our voiceovers. And also, that is the school. The school is in Hayes in West London. It's a massive site. It's a massive school. There are 3 floors with 8 radio studios, 2 television studios, state-of-the-art equipment. We used RCS, G Selector, and Zeta. Zeta for voice tracking, and G Selector for scheduling. Our songs, our sweepers, our jingles, our idents, everything sound related was on G Selector. And now I want to play you some of my production highlights from Youth Choice. These are from 2017 to 2018. Here's just a flavor of my audio production skills, my editing skills, and my voiceover skills.
DeMarkay, Williams.
The station that gives you variety. Andrew Butcher on Youth Choice. Your music on Youth Choice.
Let's go from the Global Academy.
The freshest hits. Youth Choice.
Playing the best in soca from Grenada and Trinidad, giving you that island flavor, doing it for the culture.
This is
Soca Sunday
with DeMarkay Williams.
Launch this Sunday, 29th of April at 8 p.m.
on Youth Choice. The station that gives you variety.
Live from the Global Academy.
Your music. This is Youth Choice.
3, 2, 1. Live from the Global Academy. Follow us on socials at Youth Choice GA. On your radio, on your phone. You choose, we play. You're listening to Youth Choice.
Don't stop the music.
Youth Choice.
On air, on the ground, and online.
It's Youth Choice.
DeMarkay Williams.
So that is a flavor of my audio production work. The last piece you heard, I produced myself, and then Ashley Bard at Global kindly redid it for me with sound effects at the beginning, at the end, which is something I took on later on when doing my own audio production work. Because before, when I made them, there wasn't any real sense of oomph and power to it. So I added sound effects, and it, allowed me to become a much better audio producer, imaging producer. Yeah, cool. So let's now head back into screen share. So let's go back into share screen. Let's go to our settings. Let's go to this. There we go. That's the button I was looking for. I was looking for the share computer sound button. I forgot to click that button when I was doing it. So now audio should play perfectly when I press play. So before we continue on to Black Pioneers in Media, just a little bit of background about me. So I'm 19 years old. I turned 20 in 2 weeks. I've loved audio and radio from a very early age. When I was about 4, I said to my mum, I want to be a TV presenter, mum. And so from the age of 4 till now, so for the past 16 years, I've always wanted to get into media, and to be able to find a school like Global Academy to allow me to do that was incredible. I'm a young Black guy who's always found it hard to get into the industry. And whenever I talk about it, I don't like dwelling on the fact that, oh yes, DeMarkay is a Black person, a young Black boy who wants to get into the industry. I like to say, I don't like to mention it. I just say, hey, I'm DeMarkay, I'm 19, I'm really passionate about audio and radio production. I don't let it hinder me anymore. I used to let it hinder me, but now I don't. I say, hey, this is my work, this is my portfolio. If you like it, send me an email and we can talk. I would love to play you Black Pioneers in Media, the full 5-minute and 25 audio documentary that had 26 minutes worth of raw audio, cut down to 5.5 minutes. And I think you'll agree that it sounds amazing.
Pioneers of media. Who are they and how did they make history? What did they change and what made them trailblazers?
In 1968, a young Jamaican girl with very middle-class European attitudes and ambitions became the first Black person to be employed as a reporter-interviewer on British television. She immediately became the focus of a great deal of attention and controversy, not just because of her job, but especially because she was Black.
I'm DeMarkay, and today in this podcast, I'll be talking about Barbara Blake, the challenges she faced and how she paved the way for Black people of today. She had a prominent career during her time as a journalist and was known for on-the-ground interviews. Here she talks to her man about the housing crisis in Britain in the 70s.
What problems are these?
Well, the problems that Wolverhampton and comparatively few other areas are the areas which seem to have to bear the burden of the whole of the immigration which comes into this country. And therefore, we feel that it is necessary that people who decide to come to areas such as this should be prepared to wait a little longer than other people.
She also worked with the BBC and Channel 4. She paved the way for future Black news presenters such as Trevor McDonald, who worked for ITN.
These are the main developments. FBI officers trying to find those in America implicated in the attacks have raided homes and hotels and made a number of arrests.
And Maura Stewart, who worked for the BBC.
A massive car bomb in Northern Ireland has killed more than 20 people, including children.
It exploded in a busy shopping street in Omagh, County Tyrone. About 100 people have been injured. It's the worst bomb attack in 30 years of terrorism in the province.
I interviewed Barbara at her home in Jamaica via Skype, and she explains more about how black people and their efforts weren't truly appreciated in Britain back in the late 60s.
Well, I came from Jamaica, where we'd been brought up in a tradition that being black was to be second class and inferior. So I was rather prepared to accept, a second class status. I didn't really realize how insidious that was, how vicious it was, how painful it was. But I did my best to live within the system and endure it as politely as I could. That was 50 years ago. And we all did that. We were humble servants of the Queen and the Commonwealth and the Empire. And we hardly, knew that there was an alternative way to be.
During her time at ITN, she received a lot of negative press from her colleagues and senior staff, most of them quite racist. Here she explains what truly happened.
Well, I didn't get them at the time. The negative letters and phone calls that came into the studio were kept from me until right at the very end of my contract, when they sort of released some of them so that I could hear the reasons why my contract was not going to be renewed. There seemed to be so many people who didn't want to see my brown-skinned face on their television screens. In fact, it was black and white in those days, I think. Maybe we had color, I'm not sure. But I wasn't really exposed to it at the time. So, when it was shown to me, it was a shock. But by then I certainly knew that racism existed in Britain, and racism ruled at the time, I would say.
Britain in the present day is very multicultural, with talented people from all races and backgrounds. But for Barbara, as a young black woman, she was entering an industry dominated by white males at the time.
Everything was white. Only some show business we had a look in. Millie had just made her song My Boy Lollipop, and the Supremes were the #1 artists. Jimi Hendrix was doing his thing. So, I was just one of a few, but in the media, there were very few. In radio, there were more. In radio, there was the Caribbean broadcasting service of the BBC, and a lot of Caribbean people got to participate in the media then, and that was good, but not on television. On television, you would only see us if we were singing or dancing. So there had never been a black journalist, TV journalist, until I came along, until I got my job.
A very ambitious young lady who arrived in Britain from Jamaica in the late 60s paved the way for black people in the media industry today. She also fought off the stigma from her colleagues and changed their perceptions of black people. Her name is Barbara Blake, and she is a black pioneer. I'm DeMarkay, and for more choice, search Youth Choice GA on social media.
So, that was Black Pioneers in Media. I produced that at 17 years old. I had never made an audio package on that scale before. I had 5 other versions of that with a completely different intro, same music, but showed it to my audio teacher, Izzy. She's like, DeMarkay, I love it, but at the beginning, don't give away what the audio package is about. Save that for in the middle when you're introducing it, rather than giving the whole thing away and it being a waste of time. So I redid the script, did the intro with the music, with my voiceover, and in between that, I did clips of Barbara, and I made sure that Barbara's voice was prominent throughout the whole thing. And the way I did it was, when I interviewed her originally, the questions I asked her, I used those questions in my script, but I rewrote them to make them, sound like, oh, here Barbara talks about her time at so and so and so and so. But when I asked her the question, it was like, so Barbara, tell me about your time at so and so and so and so. So it was a nice natural flow between me asking her the questions and her answering the questions, and then me telling you guys what we're going to be talking about and her answer. So yeah, now let's get through. We've done this. You've heard this, which is good. Let's now talk about BBC Radio London's New Voices Auditions 2019. So in October 2019, BBC Local Radio were looking for new voices for their radio stations. And I had gotten through, went to Box Park in Wembley, near Wembley Stadium. There was a queue of people, but I got there earlier because I live around the corner from Wembley. I live in Acton, so got a taxi there. There was not that many people there at the beginning, but towards midday, there were a lot of people turning up. Got in, got my number, went in the room you see on the right-hand corner. There's me sitting next to a guy called Jeffrey, who's an award-winning host, speaker, former radio presenter. He's a comedian as well. We auditioned in front of Carrie and David Grant, Joe Good, and Lionheart, all from BBC Radio London. And to be there and to see the amount of work that they put into something like this was incredible. And at the end, they told us who was successful and who wasn't. I was successful as a contributor or guest on BBC Radio London. Other people went to do a pilot show. They were successful in getting the pilot produced to see if they'll be a good fit as a presenter on the station. So that's BBC Radio London's New Voices Auditions 2019. And now I'd like to talk to you about this. Multi-Track Audio Fellowship 2019. Below are the 6 companies that took part in the first year. I got to work with 2 of them. So Something Else and Muddy Knees Media were the ones that I got to work at. Raymond, who's part of Multi-Track Audio Fellowship as well, he got to work at Loftus and Whistledown, and Sandra got to work at 7 Digital and Reduced Listening. Whistledown is a fantastic company run by Deborah Dudgeon. 7 Digital is a great company. It's called 7 Digital Creative, based in central London. Loftus, which is around the corner from me in Shepherd's Bush, which is a local company. Cherie and Alex, they do a fantastic job. And also Joe at Loftus. Reduced Listening with Joby Walderman, fantastic company as well. Seeing what they do with Radio 4 and the collaborations that they've done and the work that they've done is incredible. Something Else producing some of my favorite shows on radio. So Trevor Nelson on Radio 2, Ricky Melvin and Charlie on Radio 1, Shawnee B on 1 Extra. For me to be able to, do some incredible work there and be able to work in the offices that producers do at New Broadcasting House and Wogan House was a really, really special experience for me, because it's something I've always wanted to do. And to be able to do that at 19 years old, sitting at the BBC, using the software that the BBC uses, using the scheduling software, the hotkeys, the editing software that they use at the BBC, creating audio packages that went out on air, was an experience I'll never forget. So thank you to Multi-Track for doing that. Muddy Knees Media, getting to work on their podcast series Linked, the Totally Football Show, producing, I believe it was 3 pilot episodes I did for their Dungeons and Dragons series. So I got to produce a pilot series for them for their Dungeons and Dragons series, which was presented by the team at Muddy Knees Media. So there was Ben, there was Abby, there was Nick, there was also the guy who runs Muddy Knees Media. He was part of it as well. I got to do all of that, which was incredible. So thank you to them as well. But if anyone is struggling to get into the audio industry and needs a foot up, Multi-Track is most definitely the way to go. I highly recommend Multitrack, because without them, I wouldn't have been with Trevor Nelson at Radio 2 or producing a pilot series or, letting my audio skills flourish, which is an experience I'll never forget. So that is just a flavor of me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Feel free to contact me on social media, on Twitter, via email, or Instagram. You'll be able to find me. Just search for me, or LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably the best way, because then I can get your details. We can email each other, so you can find me on LinkedIn. If you have children that want to get into the media industry like you, send them to the Global Academy. Make sure that they become part of Youth's Choice. And when they leave Global Academy and Youth's Choice, make sure that they go to Multitrack, because that really is the stepping stone. If they don't get a job in the industry straight away, like I haven't, then send them to Multitrack, and that is the best place for them to be in the audio industry. So yeah, that's me. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to check out Black Pioneers in Media, then search it on SoundCloud. It should be called Black Pioneers in Media. Barbara Blake. It's on my SoundCloud profile. Have a listen to it. I'm going to be releasing a fuller version of that. I still have the raw audio. I found it after months of searching, so that's going to come out soon. Hopefully going to be creating a new Black Pioneers in Media project soon. And also, I hope to launch my production company called Audio in Color very soon, which essentially is creating content for BAME people, whether they be Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, creating content for them, being able to showcase my work on a higher level. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you later. Thank you, guys.